Hello, my beauty. So if my sound isn't great today, I have failed to source a USB-C splitter that connects my microphone and my iPad. So yeah, that is why it's probably not quite so good. However, nothing stops us, does it? We just keep going. So everything going wrong. Anyway, there we are. Electronics in the Mercury retrograde are not a good mix. We're coming to the end. We have now ended the Mercury retrograde. We are now in the spring equinox, the Aries equinox. So we can now hopefully see some movement forward. However, that hasn't happened for me today. Maybe it's just a hangover from the Mercury retrograde. Who knows? Who knows? Me and technology does not work at the best times. However, we carry on. We carry on. Weary, but we carry on. So today I decided to just go over star seeds. Star seeds, indigo children, interplanetary beings. So if I start with my story, I had absolutely no idea whether I was a star being or not until I listened to a lady, and again, there's me and names, Diana someone. Anyway, she is a past life regressionist, and she has written, I think she's a doctor as well. She's written many books on her work in past life regression and what she's learned there and what she's discovered there and what the beings that she has connected with, I say the beings she's connected with, what the people have discovered through their past life regression, and what she's come to learn through their regressions. And she was talking, and she said a few things about interplanetary beings. Interplanetary beings come into their bodies on Earth in order to try and help with the frequency of the Earth. Okay, so we've got a lot of current Draco energy, and whatever you think about aliens, you cannot deny the current Draco energy that exists on Earth. Warmongering, aggression, self-serving, unempathic, generally very much a description of the culture within the global agenda, which is materialistic, money, power, control, and a general sense of self-service, survival mode. Let's get clear on this. This is a very low vibrational, unevolved characteristic. So souls that have not been round the block, let's put it that way, not really learnt much. If they have been round the block, slow learners, unable really to self-reflect, those who don't really achieve emotional fulfillment from anything, and are looking at simple sort of chemical responses from the brain, chemical, primitive senses of succession, of being achievement, primitive senses of achievement, a big car, a large company that controls lots of people, the ability to purchase people's souls, the ability to make somebody else do exactly what they want them to do, so that they don't have to change their plan. Like, they're not adaptable, they're very rigid, and there's a lot of rules that can't be changed, and if they change them, it collapses their ego, that it collapses their sense of I'm also I also woke up with a migraine, so I'm also struggling with my words today, fibromyalgia being something we'll touch on later. Something that collapses their sense of self-worth, sense of value, sense of achievement, their ego. Everything is wrapped up in material gain, control, power, and a sense of being able to move their external world rather than to adapt their internal world, their sense of flexibility, and their sense of adaptability. All of those things are very rigid, unevolved, and very, very unevolved. So I'm really struggling with communication today. However, I will continue. This is the current influence. This is the hold over humanity. Now, the Lyrans and the Palladians, who have strong connections with Egypt and various, we see the Neolithic structures, the portals, the circles, the stone circles, all those things that exist, continue to stand, that baffle everybody on how anyone could have moved it. Well, they were moved with sound vibrations and a technology that was known to the Palladians and the Lyrans and the the ancient societies, very, very civilized ancient societies that existed in different areas of the world. I have a strong connection to Egypt, and I've known that since I was a child, whereby I knew that the hint was that my grandfather was in the RAF, and he was based in Egypt, and he brought back a piece of the pyramids. Well, I may have mentioned this before, however, you probably can't do that now, but now he had this piece of the pyramids. And it was fascinating to me, and I've always been drawn to Egypt, drawn to Egyptian culture. It was something I learned I learned a bit about it in school when I was probably about 13 or 14, and even then that was one of the lessons that I listened intently to. Although I was I've always been very interested in history and history of Earth, however obscured and inaccurate the current history of Earth is. We will learn at some point our true history, what really happened, rather than what the books, again, controlled by the Draco energy. Now, some people claim to have seen the Dracos manifest in human beings, and I think what we understand is that, or what I understand is that sometimes Draco beings can possess a human body, or, and squeeze in there and join in, hang off, and enter the not the soul, but the auric field of an individual, and tag off the auric field. And if they've got that entry point and they're tagging onto the auric field, then they can present themselves through that individual's body. And so sometimes, I think there's been a story recently in the on YouTube that Robbie Williams has finally admitted to his encounter. He has talked about UFO encounters, space encounters before. He's expressed, you can see he has been moving towards that route of media and how can I say it? He's been venturing into the alternative media for some time with what he has experienced and believed, and it feels like, I always had a bit of an affinity with him as well, because he was very, very close to his grandmother before she died, and I learnt of that, and I obviously identified with that. I was very close to my grandmother, and then she died. So you tend to, when you're seeing famous people, it can be that sort of thing that pulls you into wanting to know a little bit more about them, that identification, the resonation of their life story that draws you in a bit. So I have always been a little bit drawn into Robbie Williams. I used to really enjoy his music. I struggle to listen to music now. No idea why. No idea why. But he gave a very, very brief story of a time when he was intimate with a woman, and he looked at her face and he saw a reptilian or reptilian features. Now, whether that was he didn't expand on it, and his interviewers didn't follow it up. I'm sure that he has, since this interview was released, I'm sure he has an abundance of emails in his inbox, all asking for more details and interviews. Let's hope actually that he has been on Sean Atwood's channel before, so let's hope Sean can reach out to him, because I think Sean's sort of an open skeptic. But he is, he accepts. He's a very balanced individual, Sean, and you can see Sean Atwood has a strong sense of both the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and that men like that are quite rare, and men like that aren't really thrust into the limelight that much. Very much. For me, this is his destiny. This is very much, I mean, the work he's done for survivors, and the way he takes on survivors' stories, and is happy to back their stories without skepticism, and is happy then, if he finds that that there's things that don't add up, he'll admit it and move on. And I think that's a very strong, mature approach that many people in media do not take, because they are too scared of being wrong. So they dismiss, and then they say, well, there's no evidence, and they back it up with this no evidence. Anyway, let's move forward towards what we're really here to talk about, starseeds. So he experienced this Draco persona coming, and I'm not sure if it was a full-on 3D presentation or whether it was a spiritual presentation. Now, or is there any difference? Is there really any difference? I remember not so long ago, recently, being in just not in West London, not far from the Little Italy, anyway, and I it was carnival. It was carnival. Although they were quite out the, well, they weren't that out the way for carnival actually, but there was a load of officers all walking past the restaurant, open air restaurant over the river, really pretty, but and they were walking past, and I was just caught my eye and saw the officers walking past, all young officers, and one of the officers that walked past me had red eyes. So when I think back to that, was that a 3D physical presentation of something, or was it my psychic perception? So to me, it just looked like red eyes, you know. I wasn't thinking, oh, this is a psychic vision of red eyes, although I kind of did, because no one else could see it. So yeah, I mean, it's a big subject, and ask an astrophysicist about it, scientist, and yeah, you'll get more of an explanation. Astrophysics is very much catching up with the spiritual world now, or intertwining with the spiritual world, and so that's bristling a few, you know, ruffling a few feathers within the scientific world that really can't cope with that. So starseeds. So yeah, we're in that Draco energy, and so it's out of balance, it's out of whack. So we really need to be addressing the balance. And so my experience, let's go back to my experience. So I heard this Diana lady, I'm pretty sure she's called Diana. Anyway, someone will know. But Diana lady talking about what she's learned through her experience of near-death experience, of her experience of past life regression. There are these several types of starseeds, and whatever you call them, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to say starseeds because it's easier. And these starseeds are, you know, asked. So you can be a starseed that's had various lives on planet Earth, but their main gig, if you like, is in on the planet of Lyra, or the planet of the Pleiades, the Seven Sisters, Orion, which is actually, Orion is, I think, where this particular group of Dracos came from and started this ruckus with the Pleiadian and the Lyran civilizations here. Anyway, now, to a certain degree, the Dracos sort of took over, and it was said that, you know, right, well, fine, as long as these humans continue to, you know, stay in the dark and stay asleep, you can, you know, we won't interfere. However, if if we find, you know, that these humans start waking up, we will come back, and if the, you know, if the balance just gets totally off and there's too, you know, whatever. Anyway, so that was the plan. Too much draconian energy on planet Earth. We need to balance it out, and we need to uplift the planet. It's war, they're going to destroy it. Let's face it, everyone believes that. It's like, you know, the current leaders quite easily could destroy the planet in a heartbeat. So, and we've all been aware of that for some time, at least, you know, sort of 70 years, whatever, 50 years especially. And so so the so the starseeds have returned. Now, with my sort of awakening on the starseed status, I grew up feeling an alien. I grew up feeling different. I didn't feel that I felt things the same way as everybody else. I didn't ever feel like I experienced things the same as everyone else. I always felt although I've always sort of had that sort of feeling of being alone in this world, I, at the same time, being agreeable, forged many relationships, and found that those relationships, you know, were quite easy to maintain. However, they, on the other hand, found it harder to maintain the relationship with me. So I found myself, I would forge friendships, and then they would just, yeah, draconian all over me. And so I would back off and I would move on, and then they would feel resentful and like, oh, you know. So, and that's continued sort of pretty much throughout my life. I've tried to get stronger in my voice and telling them, you keep going and you will push me away, you keep going and this relationship will shatter. And they've taken no notice, they don't pick up the cues. So that's how it carries on. Anyway, it's a struggle because you feel quite alone in the world. You feel like you are taking on the world all alone, and that no one really learns. It's like, it's a frustration. No one learns their lesson. Everybody just continues to be negative and manipulative and serve themselves without really thinking about anybody else. No empathy, God knows what else. Anyway, so when I learned about these traits that were coming forward from this Diana lady, she mentioned all those things that I've just mentioned, you know, somebody who's, you know, particularly good at communication, somebody who's particularly good at relationships, somebody who is positive, somebody who jumps to the caring, nurturing, empathic side before anything else, and quite selfless sometimes in their approach to relationships, which is where they get taken advantage of, and then eventually the relationship breaks down, as I've just mentioned. And they are evolved souls. They have a sense of, they often stare up at the sky. So yeah, that for me, stargazing was a big thing when I was young, and I lived in a small town where you could see the stars, whereas now I'm in London where you can't see the stars at all. I think that might be intentional, however. So we can't, yeah, because they've got what's the word? They've got alternatives. They've got street lighting that can just rain down and not up into the sky. There's loads and loads of stuff. Anyway, but so I yeah, again, my experience was all of those things, stargazing. I wouldn't say a feeling of wanting to go home, but that came in later on in life, although not in, I didn't fully understand it, but I'll go into that. But a sense of yeah, just not feeling like you fit in, really. So much so that I left my hometown pretty quickly in my teens, and then very much away from my home area, my county, just to get into a more diverse area, so that yeah, so I didn't feel quite so alien. So when I was understanding all these things, and just ticking off all those things, thinking, oh, I wonder if I am. I wonder if I am. But I was going through a lot. This wasn't something I could really sort of spend 24 hours meditating on or thinking about, and so so it was a fleeting thought that remained at the back of my mind, and I would bring it back for a little consideration. Is this something? Is this something? And then, but just never really got to the bottom of it until I did. And then I sat down and was like, right, I need to know what's a starseed, what makes you a starseed, how do you know if you're a starseed? And then went through the tick box and realised, and yeah, there was a few things in there which I'll go into in how to identify whether you're a starseed. There was a few things in there that just was like, yeah, I mean, it's undeniable, isn't it, that with all of these things, he's ticking all these boxes, it's undeniable that you are a starseed. And I came to the conclusion with, again, tick boxes, that I was Palladian, but I do think I have had Lyran lifetimes. I know I've had many Earth time lifetimes. So I cried my eyes out. I cried my eyes out with relief, because finally my whole life made sense. In that moment of realizing all those things that you felt, all those things that you couldn't understand, that you were so different from other people, was because you are different. And there's nothing like sort of verification on things to make you feel, sort of things fall into place, and to banish that sense of, I can't understand this, I need to work this out. And then you work it out, and finally you've solved the problem and you understand. So yeah, cried my eyes out. Finally I understand. My whole life makes sense. Finally my whole life makes sense. And I realised I'd come here. I've been here before, yes, but I've come here to try and help out, especially at this time where there's a great awakening. Now, which leads on to these videos. Now, you might sit there and think, oh, well, yeah, I don't really know why she bothers with these videos, or, oh, well, yeah, she's not really got many followers, but she's still going, bless her. All of these things is because I have a strong understanding that this is what I am meant to be doing. It's occurred to me. It is, the penny has dropped. I am meant to be doing this, whether it is just a slow growing at this stage, this is what I am meant to be doing. This is why I'm here. I am here for this reason. I am here to talk about what I know about how it is to be a higher consciousness individual. And so out there'll be many people who all identify with what I'm saying, and that they also feel like they've never really belonged, and all of these things that go, yeah, I always felt a bit like that. And now, as I say, I did mention Sean Atwood previously, because I said he has that divine feminine and divine masculine balance. And I would suggest, although, yeah, that's a really telling sign. Now, Palladian, which I feel an affinity to, and I know that that is part of my starseed heritage, they are the divine feminine, and the Lyrans are also the divine masculine. So that fits for me. I do feel that I am a balance between the divine feminine and the divine masculine. I'm not like I'm whatever I appear to be, or whether you know I appear to be a bit of a enigma, whatever. I have a very strong masculine side, and I have a very strong feminine side. So, and then, you know, like as I say, for example, Sean Latwood has the same, and he is able to, you can see how that manifests in his podcast, where he is listening to and interacting with a feminine or a female interviewee, and then when he is interacting with a male interviewee, you can see he is incredibly adept at the connection of both. And you see he's a boy's boy when he's with the boys, and he's a ladies man, not in the ladies man, in the an honorary bird, we used to call you. You're an honorary bird or an honorary girl. So yeah, he connects in with that when he is with the women, and he's got a lot of women followers, and he's got a lot of male followers. But yeah, I mean, he's got, last time I looked, he had 1.3 million followers. So there has to be a good cross section there. But as I've said, the ability to transcend those energies is a very natural thing to him. So I would suggest he probably is initially a starseed, although he may not know it. There we are. So just to move through some of the traits of starseeds and what they're bringing to the Earth consciousness. Just to say, this is from my notes. So they are all evolved souls. They've had many, many lifetimes, 1,000 plus. I suppose, I mean, evolved souls and many lifetimes doesn't always align. So you can have a child genius who has learned extremely quickly in a very short period of time, or you can have a person who has taken a very long period of time to reach that same level. So evolved souls, many lifetimes, you can do it in millions of lifetimes, you can do it in thousands of lifetimes. I personally know from my guides that I have done at least 1,000 lifetimes. I know that I've done 1,000 lifetimes. So, and they would have been some here, some Lyran, some. I'm sure I've been all round. I probably may have even started on the in the Orion Draconian sphere. God help me then. That's probably what taught me the most. Who knows? Anyway, so these starseeds, they come down and they do experience tough lives. They experience tough childhoods. They experience, by their nature, because they are not used to this frequency, Earth's frequency, the frequency of the Earth beings, they experience a tough time. However, there is a good reason for that. They are protected, and they are they're looked after and protected. So you'll find that they are sometimes they can, go through so much, and people can look and observe and think, how are they still standing? It's really blooming annoying. I know I'd be on the floor. I mean, who knows? You just don't know, do you? Why don't you ask them? Why don't you go around and show them a bit of compassion and actually and just ask them, do you need genuine help? And of course, you know, there's no point in then asking them if they need genuine help, and then when you know, they ask, actually, all I really need is someone to do this, and then it's like, oh, I can't actually do that, so that's a waste of time. Take bog off. Anyway, they are evolved souls. They're evolved souls. And they come down, their memories are erased, and they experience some tough times through their lifetimes, their life paths, their soul contracts. And what that brings them is an awakening that brings back their memories of their old self. I say memories, I mean, they remember, they remember who they are. They remember who they are. They remember how to be for their maximum experience. They remember who they need to be for their strongest endurance on this planet. But yes, of course, they don't belong. They feel like the black sheep. Now, I've joked to my family, I'm not the black sheep. I'm the colourful, glittery sheep, which they laugh at. However, that said, I can honestly say when I look at my siblings, they're all, if they're not starseed, they're all evolved souls. They're all evolved souls. All of my siblings are all evolved souls. Yeah, that sense of don't belong. You know, that sense of sort of, you know, this is sort of, you know, the traits that starseeds will have, as I explained before, that sort of longing to go home. Now, for me, I didn't long to go home to my planet because I didn't realise that that's what I was longing for, but I did want to leave Earth, which can be perceived in many ways, but it could be perceived as just wanting to end. Yeah, I want this to end. I want to go. And then I started to say, I want to go home. I understood that home, I want to go back to the light. I want to go home because life is tough and life was tough. So from that longing to go home, I believe that, you know, there is an element of that, is a lot longing to return to that high frequency, whether it's home, whether it's my home planet, whether it's back to the light, whatever it is, I don't mind, as long as I just want to return home to my home frequency. This frequency is too heavy. And again, it is very, very heavy. And I don't think anybody really, other than those incredibly intense draconian types, really think that it's not. Everybody seems to think Earth School is the hardest, okay? And it's only those in ultimate power, those ultimate draconians, the psychopaths, the sociopaths, who can purchase their way through, the billionaires and the 1%. They're the ones that want to, like, eternal life. Like, you know, I mean, God, I can't think of anything worse on this planet than eternal life. You know, to sit on this planet for eternity. Oh my God. But anyway, there you go. Now, all these higher frequency starseeds just really feel like they don't belong. They're incredibly intuitive. They are much more likely to have early awakenings and be telepathic in nature. which is confusing. It's really confusing, especially, you know, when you're growing up and you're like, well, it's obvious. Like, this is, no, it's not. No, they're not like that. Or you can just feel energy, and you can feel someone's like a bit dark, and then it takes like, you know, people who are loving, caring, but then just a little bit slower than you to catch up. They have these starseeds have a very, very close affinity to nature. Some of them have a very strong attraction to metaphysics and sort of geometry, things like that. Technology. There's some people who can be very pulled to technology. Now, I think Elon Musk has said something about that, hasn't he? He has said that he has he's an alien, and I can't remember what else he says because I don't really take much notice of him, but I did remember that. They're very interested in the truth. Okay, they look to expose the truth. They don't advocate. They don't advocate keeping things in the shadows. They're empathic. Their homes and isolation from these more heavier energies is incredibly important. To stay at home, to spend time just with the people that you care about, the people that love you, even though they can cause you grief and heaviness. We are social beings, so that can cause its own problems. However, that feeling of needing to be home, to be in your sanctuary, safe, in isolation, away from all the busy energies, avoiding those crowds, like the crowd thing, is something that really didn't kick in for me, because I was always looking to escape. So I loved partying, I loved festivals. Mind you, I mean, once I hit 30 something, I couldn't do festivals anymore. It was just intense. Also with my fibromyalgia, which is also something that occurs in starseeds. So this is something that this Diana lady discovered, that a starseed is much, or a higher vibrational soul is much more likely to experience autoimmune diseases. And that autoimmune diseases are when your body turns in on itself and starts attacking itself. So I'm going to talk about autoimmune diseases next time, and there's lots of interesting things there that link into the current world, with all these suggestions and of the pandemic, the vaccines and all of that. So that all ties in that. So if you're interested in or you have autoimmune diseases, I'm going to talk a little bit about that next time. So truth, they're empaths, they like to be at home. Nature brings them peace, like walking in nature, being around nature, being around animals is just like a big raising of vibration, raising of that sort of feeling, a raising of their energies. They see signs, they see, signs and coincidences, not coincidence. There's no such thing as coincidences, but they find, coincidences. I can't think of the word. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Synchronicities. Okay, yay, synchronicities. Yeah, they find synchronicities everywhere. I think that, things, synchronicities all left, right and centre in things. And they're able to link up through those synchronicities, which brings that wisdom. yeah, I mentioned wanting to go home. Yeah, the earth experience is overwhelming, and you do find that some people really struggle with it and just check out, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. It just, and you know, that feeling of wanting to check out, I mean, it's amazing how many people do actually experience that at many times or some time in their lives. So, you know, don't think you're a freak or you're mentally ill because you've wanted to check out. It's incredibly common, and doesn't indicate weakness at all. Okay, so never ever feel like it's an indication of weakness. But all I would say is that once you do it, once you get up there, if you don't have an opportunity to come back down immediately and carry on, you know, sort of rethink your situation. And you may be asked, do you want to come up? Do you want to come up now? You've had enough. You've been through a lot. You've been through a lot. A lot of people experience near-death experiences, and, you know, maybe Jesus or, you know, a family member or God will say to them, oh, yeah, you've done so well. Do you want to come home now? It's up to you if you want to come home. I mean, if you want to carry on, you can. Obviously, we'll support you in that. It's your decision. But if you would like to come home, we understand. It's like, it's heavy, isn't it? Yeah. And then they obviously decide to come back to tell us that I decided to come back. Otherwise, we wouldn't hear about it, would we? Unless it was in through a psychic reading or a mediumistic reading. Yeah, overwhelmed. Yeah, and there's that feeling as well. Am I speaking the same language as these people? It's like, not only do you feel you don't belong, you feel like you can't communicate with them. You try and sort of say this, that, and the other, and then they just look at you and they're like, nah. You just think, like, am I talking the same language? Chances are you're probably not talking the same language. You stand out with what you wear. You know, yeah, you could be more likely to dye your hair. Well, it's pink at the moment, but the first colour that it goes when I dye it is magenta. So there's a lot of purple-headed, pink-headed, blue-headed, green-headed people out there that, you know, you just think, oh, look at that, look at her, you know, or look at him. More likely to embrace the fact that they're different. Patterns, so they're more likely to wear a leery shirt. I saw an interview, I can't remember what his channel is called, but he was in a bright orange 3-piece suit, and I went, oh my God, look at that, it's a 3-piece suit. And I thought, God, how would I cope with someone if I was actually in a relationship with that person? Then I just thought, well, they must think the same about me. How am I going to cope with this pink-headed woman walking down? How am I going to cope with this woman who wears these dresses that just scream at people? And then I just thought, actually, I think I'd be quite pleased with it. I think they'd be fine. They'd be fine. So it's, you know, that sort of feeling of wanting to conform, so that you don't attract too much negative attention. But you've got to be true to you and express yourself. So yeah, that bright orange suit was incredible. And I just thought, first of all, oh yeah, orange, yeah. But then, and I do love orange, and I love wearing orange. I think we have more artistic license as women to wear bright, different colours than men. But I thought, yeah, go for it, man. You look good. Anyway, hair colours, bright patterns that other people would be like, oh, it's a bit leery pattern for me. Leery colours, bright colours, and just generally that feeling of struggling to conform, non-conformist. I don't really want to do that, and why should I do that? And I found sort of the middle part of my life, I really honed the ability to conform. Yeah, I was like, right, you've got to do it. You've got to just do it. And, you know, I was working in banking, and then, you know, I worked for the court service, managing the courtroom and assisting the judge and the barristers and getting everybody together, and yeah, you need that conformist attitude, and I did, but it turned sour in the end, because I just thought, I can't bear this. These people are stupid. I mean, I'm not saying that the judges were stupid. I'm not saying that, you know, the barristers were stupid, but it was narrow. It was very narrow, let's say. Very, very narrow. And I just, and it wasn't so much them, it was just the civil service that I was working in. I started to feel like, God, these people aren't very bright. Like, they're just not progressive at all. So that's how I ended up just finding it. It was a pretty dark period of my life where I just couldn't even bear being in the place. And as I say, nothing to do with the judges or the barristers, but more to do with the civil service, let's say. Yes, another thing that we do, us starseeds, people who are starseeds, they're more likely to want to conquer their fears. Okay, so they'll be they you know, conquering your fear. Oh, my fear, oh, I really fear that, but they don't run away from it. They use they conquer their fears as a priority. Okay, but their body feels very heavy in this world, and that's where I talked about the autoimmune disorders often form. Just looking at my notes, the trauma at a young age, I've just talked about the ability to awaken and start working really hard on your consciousness. And that's something I've always done from the minute I came out of the womb. I'm always looking at improving my consciousness and growing my consciousness and acknowledging the necessity to expand and grow and learn. And, you know, I did this, I've hurt that person, I've said this person, it's always, yeah, oh God, yeah. So you can't really, got to just hold it down when you get that negative feeling that's coming from within you. If you speak it, you're going to have a negative effect on that person, and that negativity doesn't sit with them, it just bounces back to you, and then it bounces off, and then it bounces around the room. And, you know, you have to just like neutralize that negativity. As soon as the negativity comes to the fore, you think about it, you think about the origins of it, you heal from it, and you neutralize it, and so it doesn't come out and get projected onto others. I've mentioned, I think these are all things I have. People are not able to see helping. Yeah, healers, big healers, and helpers, people who like to help people. People who like to make someone feel better than when they found them. So to walk away from someone, making them feel more positive, foreseeing you, and you don't always have control over that, however, because sometimes they're making a judgment on you and thinking you have got it all sorted, and that in their own ego takes them down a darker path, thinking, well, I resent them for having it all sorted and all figured out. So just to close off on starseeds, I just want to run through some of the traits that certain starseeds can bring, and this is, yeah, I mean, it's like saying, give me three words to explain your personality. You can't do it, but there's so many things that starseeds bring. But anyway, let us start with the Palladians. As I've mentioned, Palladians are the divine feminine. They are very, very connected to animals and nature. They bring, they're big healers, they're record keepers, and they are very, very love focused. The Lemurians. Now the Lemurians were they have this connection. The Lemurian society, the Lemurian people, can't think of the word again, it's always on a Saturday, have they have their connections to Atlantis, Lemuria, obviously. They and they're made up of different types of starseeds. They have a big connection to Egypt. They're big communicators. And then there's the Arcturians, builders and architects and teachers. Syrians, they work for peace, and they work very much on the water frequency, so they work with the water. Andromedans, they work for peace and love. And then the Lyrans, divine masculine, and they are the cat people. So there we go. And that is another thing. If you cannot stop looking at your cat's face and being completely and utterly in love and filled with divine energy when you look at your cats, and thinking that they are the most beautiful creature you have ever laid your eyes on. Domestic cats, I think, even more. I mean, I get that same feeling with the big cats. But they're a little bit more sort of masculine, aren't they? They've got bigger noses, whereas these little petite noses that these domestic cats have got. I look at them and I just think, you are. And I look at Michael and I go, you're the king. You are an absolute king. And I look at Ebony and I go, oh, she's just a complete queen. Look at her. Look at her. She's a queen. And the feel of them, they're so beautifully soft, aren't they, and cuddly, my teddy bears. Although I do, I'm going to make a little confession here, I do call Ebony a fat cow sometimes, but she doesn't mind. She does not mind, I promise you. She doesn't take that as a negative, and it's not said negatively. It's just that in the winter, her fur thickens up and she eats more to keep warm. And so she goes from slender, thin, svelte, slinky pussycat to this big chunky pussycat. So I go, all right, fat cow. And she loves it. I promise you it's not negative, okay? I promise you it's not negative. However, and cows, like, oh my God, I adore cows. I just adore cows. And I just wish, you can get those micro cows as well, can't you? I just wish I could have a cow. But you need quite a lot of land, apparently, and at least an acre, even for a micro cow. So yeah, oh my God, I love cows. So it's not an insult to her to call her a fat cow. It is a honour. Okay, so yes, so that kind of gives you some of the hints of different star seeds anyway. I hope that's been helpful to you. As said, the next time I'm coming back on to talk, I'm going to be talking about autoimmune disorders, and I'm also going to be talking about where they're coming from and certain rumours about certain viruses and things that can cause them, and gossip within the scientific eminent scientists and what they are gossiping about the origin of some of these disorders. So yeah, if you are an autoimmune sufferer, and then you might find that interesting. Anyway, so lots of my unconditional love to you, and I hope you found this helpful or useful or interesting or whatever, or anyway, and I'll keep coming. I'm gonna keep coming at you. So whether you want to listen is up to you. Anyway, so have a good week, and lots of love.